In a day and age when it's so easy to upload to DistroKid, why should I register my song? We're going to answer that question today. Welcome to Sounds to Live By, the show where we help you write genuine songs that benefit and connect with others. I'm your host, Kevin Keene, and this is episode 14. I'm excited about this one because we get to talk with Ryan Waczek of the Indie Music Academy. When you listen to the conversation, I get into how I came upon Ryan and all the awesome material he has to offer. But before we do, if you have not yet grabbed my Killer Melody checklist, go to soundstoliveby.com/checklist and get it. It's my gift to you. It's a little 5-step process that I go through when I craft melodies, and I've used it over the last 20 years to write and just make sure my melody is as good as it can possibly be. So go grab that if you haven't yet. Now, we're going to dive into this conversation. I want you to take notes unless you're driving. There's so much good material. I will put some links in the description below if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we'll put them in the show notes. But Ryan has a lot of awesome stuff to say, and I don't want to keep you from hearing it any longer. So without any more delay, here's my conversation with Ryan Waczek. Ryan, good to be with you today.
Dude, thanks so much for having me. I'm stoked.
Man, today we're talking about a topic that I was going to create from scratch, but I did a quick Google search and quickly found Ryan's information on this topic, and I said, I cannot do better than this. There's no point for me to start creating anything on this topic. He knocked it out of the park. And so I want you to give them a little background of what you do and who you are, and how I found you so quickly out on the internet, and maybe just kind of give them a little information about what you do.
Yeah. I'll keep it really brief, but basically, just like you, I'm a music producer. I produce out of a website called soundbetter.com, which just got bought by Spotify. It's one of the top websites for finding producers and musical talent on the web. So it's really awesome. I get to work with artists all around the world, and I get to live my dream as being a full-time musician. And what I also do is I have a website called indiemusicacademy.com, which is an educational resource to help other independent artists learn how to make a living from their music, just like how I did. So I share everything that I know, including how to collect music royalties and how to sign up for all the proper avenues. And, it's really complicated in the music industry. It's kind of still catching up to all the new changes. And there are some things that are kind of old and archaic, but we still kind of have to go through these old, confusing processes in order to collect all of our royalties. And some things are actually catching up. And so just one of the guides that I've made on the Indie Music Academy blog goes over how to collect all of your music royalties and all of the places to sign up. And I think that's probably one of the posts that you found, just because, it's such a huge, lengthy article that I think Google must have thought that I'm some kind of expert or something, which
you
I'm
are,
not.
Man. It's a wonderful, it's so informative. I'm excited for you to share it with everybody. But yeah, what led me to finding Ryan is I have a friend who is an artist, and to protect his identity, we'll call him Fred. So Fred was talking to me, and he has a song that I really like, and a lot of people around in Arkansas really like, and he's got like 11,000 streams on Spotify, and it's gotten picked up on a couple local ads and stuff. And I asked what PRO he was with, which we'll define what that is. It's a performance rights organization, and he was not aware of a need for that or even really knew what it was. And so I decided to dig into this topic for people like my friend Fred that need to know, first off, why they should register with a PRO, why they should register their copyright, and any other places they need to make sure that they're handling the legal matters and the distributive information, the metadata, all that stuff that needs to be out for these entities that end up streaming or utilizing your song, to make sure that not only any money that you're due, but any credits that you're due, or any way for people to track and say this song is connected to this artist. I wanted to dig into that, and that's where I found Ryan. So Ryan, if you could, you can go through however you want to approach it, but just help me maybe first, if I'm a songwriter, why do I need to do anything besides just upload it to DistroKid and call it a day?
Totally. That's just because there are multiple types of royalties that you can earn. And DistroKid only really collects a small subset of the array of royalties that a song can earn through usage. Right? So for example, if you're a songwriter, there's actual companies that are nonprofit organizations that are regulated by the U.S. government that help you collect your songwriting royalties. And those companies are not called DistroKid. They're actually called ASCAP and BMI and CSAC. And so those are examples of what you said earlier, performing rights organizations. And what they do, it's a very specific task, but they collect songwriting royalties and they collect publishing royalties on your behalf. But you have to affiliate with one. Otherwise, they don't know you exist. They don't assign you, your BMI number if you go with BMI. And I talk about BMI a lot because I'm a BMI artist, and that's the one that I actually log into and I registered with. So
there you go. I'm ASCAP, but that's just because back in the day I was on a label and they did it for me. And so, again, I was an artist that didn't have a clue that I was an ASCAP, artist, that I was signed up with them. It was much later that I found out, I'm with ASCAP. And so there's different options, and that's, you need to do your research to decide which one you want to go with. But yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah.
No, that's totally good. And, just as kind of like a fun exercise, you can even go and search these databases yourself, and you can actually look up your favorite artists and look at, how they affiliated, and it's all laid out there. If you just Google BMI repertoire search, and for ASCAP, it's called the ACE search. All you have to do is just Google that, and then you can search every single song that's registered, and you can see all the splits. You can see the publishing companies that are involved, the record labels, the ghostwriters. It's really interesting. And so it's a really essential database for songwriters, because it is the place where songwriting royalties are collected and are registered. And if you're not there, then there's just no way for them to know that you even exist as a songwriter. And that's especially important because songwriting royalties are not collected by your distributor. They're only collected by PROs. So that is it's really simple to sign up. Actually, you just go to the website, and for BMI, it's free to register as a songwriter, and for ASCAP, I think it's only $25, if I remember correctly. So it's absolutely like so easy. It's like 3 burritos. I'm from San Diego, so everything is kind of in burrito metrics there, but it's super easy to sign up, and then I have a guide on my YouTube channel as well. If you have any trouble like actually going through the form of registering your songs, if there are like some confusing questions, I actually go through the whole process and I help you figure out what those questions mean for your music. So there's absolutely no excuse, if you have an internet connection, to register your songs. So like once you sign up, every single registration is free after that. And so you can literally register your whole catalog of songs that you've ever written, and you can finally get into the system of those PROs so you can actually get your royalties collected on your behalf.
That's great. And Ryan has some awesome graphics on, I think it was on this blog post, I'm not sure, and I'll put the blog post in the links below or in the show notes. But it's he's got some awesome graphics on how the flow chart of the different royalties, and you were saying there's different kinds of royalties. There's songwriting and there's publishing, but should we dive into a couple more of the different kinds of royalties that there are and how they can make sure they're collecting?
Yeah, and I was really trying hard to figure out a way to organize it all, because it's like really confusing, and for me it's easiest to think of the categorizations in regards to who collects them, right? So we just talked about songwriting and publishing, and the reason why those are grouped together is because those are the royalties that PROs collect. And so we can kind of just put that in a category just because that's one place to sign up. That's one kind of form to fill out. It's also, the same direct deposit once you link your bank account up, Mm-hmm. And so songwriting and publishing, they're kind of like two sides to the same coin, because whenever a songwriting royalty is earned, there's also a publishing royalty earned. And that's just the way that the law is set up in the United States. And so let's just kind of keep that separate. Okay. Then on the other hand, there is something called mechanical royalties. And mechanical royalties are a little bit easier because that's the one that your distributor most likely collects. And most distributors have like direct relationships with Spotify and Apple Music, and it's all been figured out behind the scenes, and it's really mysterious, but they most likely collect your mechanical royalties. But the good thing is that if for some reason they're not, there are some places to sign up where you can just be absolutely sure that all your mechanical royalties are taken care of. And those places are like Songtrust or CD Baby Pro. And what they advertise is that they're just like a total catch-all. They'll collect all of your mechanical royalties, even foreign mechanicals. And so I love CD Baby. I love CD Baby Pro, even though I don't use them myself. It just kind of worked out that way, where I'm not with CD Baby. I actually use another service called Songtrust to handle all that. So,
and when you say distributor, just so they know, that is your CD Babies, your TuneCores, your anything where you upload your songs to get them distributed to Spotify and Apple Music.
Yes, and sometimes the other word that's thrown around is aggregate, so that's kind of like the more technical term. Like if you're a record label, that's probably what you'd say in the contract. But for us independent artists, just going out there, going to their website, uploading our music, those are the distributors that we use to kind of get our music out there into all of the streaming platforms. And when it comes to distributors, on a couple of my videos, it's kind of a hot topic, which one's better, and which one is the best for independent artists. And honestly, it really just depends on where you're at in your music career. So it's hard to say which one's the best. But I know like DistroKid's really popular right now, but I just kind of want to challenge that. Don't just pick DistroKid because it's popular. Really look into all of the distributors and make sure that they have the right pricing structure that's the best for you. And also make sure that they have the features that are available at the right price as well, because some features are add-on charges, like that's how DistroKid is. Other features are free, but then they take money on the back end, depending on how much they're able to collect. So that's all I have to say about distributors. It's like really a hot button topic for people. People will like go to battle and die on a hill for their distributor for some reason, as if it like reflects on their character as a person. It's really funny, but
it is. And not to put DistroKid on blast, but I did have a collaboration that I did with another artist, and because they use DistroKid, I couldn't collect mechanical royalties unless I signed up for an annual. It's only like $10 or $20, but it was still kind of annoying because I do use CD Baby, and so keeping it all in that world, and so to have to sign up with DistroKid because I did a collaboration was just kind of frustrating a little bit. Not a huge deal, but yeah, it's really, I agree, it's whatever's best for you. Most important thing, as I say a lot on my channel, is like that you write and that you release. So don't let it be something that hangs you up, but educate yourself on what's the best situation.
I love that, man. Yeah, it's totally not about, what distributor do you use, like how many Spotify, dollars you're making, it's your music career is bigger than those details, and like you said, you got to write and release, and that consistency, if you can develop that habit and you can develop, your skill set and get in that zone where you're just productive and you're releasing great music, that's really the issue that I feel like should be weighing on artists, daily, and not like these little technicalities like what distributor, am I going to use to, they all do the exact same thing at the end of the day, So I love that you said that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So we have mechanical, those are collected by distributors. Is there anything else distributors handle in the royalty world?
Oh yeah, it's really important to note that the reason why it's called a mechanical royalty is because it deals with the actual mechanics of the music itself, right? So it's kind of hard to think of digital as mechanics, but back in the day when music was very physical, it was on a phonograph or it was on a CD, right? Or a cassette. I think I skipped one. Yeah. And it's like a very mechanical process, right? And so if, like on the radio, they're called spins, right? If you get a play, it's called a spin, and that's because it is like physically spinning. And so that's why they're called mechanical royalties, is because it has to do with the actual recording. Whereas going back to PROs, where they cover, they collect the songwriting, that's a royalty that comes to you regardless of the recording, right? So the example that I love to use is, the song that Whitney Houston popularized, "I Will Always Love You," right? Whitney Houston didn't write that song, right? It was originally written, I'm pretty sure, by Dolly Parton, if I'm not mistaken. And so no matter if she's the one that's singing it, whether it's Whitney that's singing it, it doesn't matter. She's getting a songwriting credit no matter what version is recorded by whatever artist, by whatever record label at any time, any place. She's the songwriter. Whereas the mechanical royalty is specific to the actual recording itself. And so that's why distributors are involved, and it's really easy that way, because if you're the one uploading the track, like you're the one that physically uploaded the WAV file to get it distributed to Spotify, then it's really easy to link back those mechanicals to, the copyright holder of that individual WAV file, right? That version. So, songwriting is different because it's a little more all encompassing. And so that's just, I hate to go back when we need to move forward to other types of royalties, but that's just another reason to sign up for a PRO. Because even if like your songs get covered, even if you have multiple versions, it's really important to make sure that you're linked as the songwriter.
Right, which is the beauty of being an independent artist, because as I'm relearning all of this again, I was on a label, so I didn't get my mechanical royalties. I didn't own the masters to my songs. So I got my songwriting royalties. I didn't get my publishing, though, because I wasn't the publisher. I wasn't the copyright holder. And so as an independent artist, as Ryan continues to explain all of these, you own 100% of all of these if you stay an independent artist. So arguably, you need far less overall purchase of your music, whether it's streams or whatever. You need a way less net amount to get the same gross as a label artist. Now, they have the money behind them, pushing them to the forefront of, they have huge marketing dollars and all of that. But with you owning 100% of your artistic material, you have a higher chance of actually earning a living as an artist compared to decades ago, whenever all you had was, you know, to be the next Kiss or not, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's such a good point, because if you think about it, like going back to, remember how I said that PROs collect both songwriting and publishing, they're kind of two sides of the same coin. Well, really, if you're not collecting your publishing because you're signed, that's already 50% lost, you know? And then on top of that, when you're missing out on your mechanical royalties, well, that's another 50% loss in a bigger way, you know? So if we have mechanical royalties and your songwriting royalties, well, you're already losing your mechanicals, and then you take this and you split that in half again, you know, you're only really making, in a best case scenario, you know, 25% at most, right? Whereas as an independent artist, my distributor is AWOL, and the way that they work out is I don't pay any upfront costs, but I pay a 15% back end. So it's interesting. It's not for everyone, you know. 15% is a lot, you know. Like every time, I think their like payout is like at like $100 at a time or something, you know, like before they actually send me anything. And so like every time I get $100, I have to give back 15. It kind of like, it's a very visual way of like, whoa, shoot, 15% is kind of a lot over time, you know? But then when you think about it though, I'm still keeping 85, you know, versus 25. And so, you know, that is just something to think about. You know, I'm not very good at math, but I'm pretty sure 85 is almost like 3 times more money, more than 3 times more money than 25%. So what that means is that in order to have the same amount of income, I can be 3 times less popular than the artists on those huge labels. And so that doesn't mean I have to be a Billie Eilish. That doesn't mean I have to be, you know, Shawn Mendes. I could be 3 times less popular and make the same amount of dough as them. So that's kind of just a brain exercise. I don't know if anyone's ever thought of that before, but it's just something to, you know, like, especially with like comparison syndrome as like a epidemic in the music industry, especially when independent artists are out there comparing themselves to the big names that are plastered over every blog and, you know, literally like Apple commercials and stuff like that, you know? And so you have like this comparison, you know, struggle, but it's not the same game that you're playing as an independent artist. And that's a good thing for indies, you know? So a total tangent, but I think
that's great. I think that's what people need to understand. And not everybody, everybody's looking to make a living off music, but there are enough people out there. I mean, even if you're not looking to make a living, if you would like a little extra for you and your family, just, or, you know, if you're single, for you and your future and to set aside, you know, it doesn't matter how the amount, at least for me. I don't know if anybody studies the Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram 1. And for me, I just like to know I've got all my bases covered. It's not so much about the amount of money coming in, but I can sleep well at night knowing I'm registered everywhere. Those are the kind of things that help me fall asleep. I'm registered everywhere. I'm good to go. I can collect whatever I need to just in case something happens.
Yeah. Well, let's make sure that everyone else is registered everywhere, you know. So there's one more place I think that I really need to talk about, because this is one that falls through falls through the cracks a lot for independent artists. And it's this platform called Sound Exchange. And you've heard of it, I think, right? Yeah. And it's kind of a weird one because, you know, your distributor has a lot of bases covered when it comes to these these streaming platforms, right? So your distributor's collecting on your Spotify, it's collecting your Apple Music, your Amazon, Deezer, Napster, if they're still in business by the time this video comes out. But there's this subset of music streaming platforms that is not covered unless if you register on Sound Exchange. And it's this special kind of streaming called non-interactive streaming. And what non-interactive streaming is, well, it's basically internet radio. It's where you cannot click on a song and play a song. So if you're used to Apple Music and you're like, I want to listen to this new album, or I want to listen to this specific song, you can double click it and it's right there on demand. Non-interactive streaming is the opposite of that. So it's like the Sirius XM, where you kind of have to tune into a radio station or a mood, or it's like the free version of Pandora, where you don't get to select individual albums or songs. You have to select these playlists or these predefined, internet radio type of experiences. So that's non-interactive streaming, and that is collected by Sound Exchange. Making sure I'm getting all this right. Sometimes I accidentally say Song Trust because they're like so similar name, but this is Sound Exchange. And the crazy cool thing about Sound Exchange is that they collect differently than any other PRO that exists. So remember BMI and ASCAP and CSAC, they collect and pay out on songwriting and publishing royalties. So kind of keep that memorized. Sound Exchange, they do it totally differently. They actually pay out on 3 completely new royalties that could be really beneficial depending on what type of artist you are. They pay out on the master copyright owner. They pay out on the featured artist, and they pay out on session musicians. And if that sounds kind of weird and random, that's because no one else does this. So the scenario that I always like to use is if you are someone that maybe doesn't write their own music, but you're very talented and maybe you have a YouTube channel or you even release music on Spotify that are covers only. And so a lot of people have made their careers that way. Like, Alex Goot, what's the other big one? Tyler Ward. He's huge on covers, and Boyce Avenue, back in the early YouTube days, And so, okay, let's take them, for example. They create covers all day long, 24/7. Sound Exchange collects on the master copyright holder, right? So if you create a new recording of a song, you qualify for that. Because if you have a home studio or you paid a producer or you went to, someone to make the track for you via work for hire, you own that. And so you are the master rights owner, and therefore you'll get paid 50% of the royalty. 50% of the royalty on Sound Exchange. I'm doing this from memory, so if I'm off by 5%, forgive me.
So back to the Whitney Houston analogy, you could do a cover on "I Will Always Love You."
Yes.
Dolly Parton would still get the songwriting royalty.
Yes.
But if you paid for the recording, you would have the rights to that master recording because you've re-recorded all of that. Literally, you own the digital file and sound, the print of that sound, even though you didn't write this song.
Correct. And that would qualify you for a royalty on Sound Exchange, which is really, really cool. And so, but it doesn't end there because it gets even better, because I said earlier that Sound Exchange pays out on the master rights holder, the featured artist, and the session musicians. So if my memory serves me correctly, that's 50% for the master rights holder. But if you're the one singing as well on that cover, then you get an additional 45% for being the featured artist on that cover, right? So once again, if you're an independent artist, most likely you're doing it all yourself. So right now you're getting 95% of that royalty. And then that last 5% is for session musicians. But if you're working in a home studio, that just goes right back to you as well. And so on Sound Exchange, if you create a cover song, you're not able to claim any of the songwriting or publishing royalties in your PRO, but you can, claim all of the royalties on Sound Exchange. And that's super special because that's basically, it's a really unique thing just in general in the music industry. There's nothing else like it. And the caveat is, yes, I just want to go back and reiterate that it's only on non-interactive streaming, but it's better than nothing.
Right. Which isn't, you correct me if I'm wrong, but even on Spotify and Apple Music, if you aren't on a paid plan and you are more on the radio where you can't really choose, you can choose what song, but it kind of shuffles through. Is that still non-interactive?
That's technically a non-interactive experience, but it's my understanding that because of the direct relationships that distributors have with Spotify, it being the biggest streaming platform, I'm almost positive that Spotify is excluded from Sound Exchange Collection. That would, that is like a music law, like detail that could change at any second. And so depending on when you're watching this video and, depending on the contracts that are going on behind the scenes, that could change at any time. But as of the last time I checked, I'm pretty sure Spotify has direct relationships with most of the major distributors. So it would be more of here's one that I didn't mention that's actually pretty huge. College online radio stations. That is not interactive streaming. And that is actually a very practical and like a very within reach goal for a lot of independent artists that would be generating a Sound Exchange royalty just right off the bat. If you are on college radio, which is kind of like the first step of any radio play, that's most likely going to be a non-interactive digital stream if they have an online version of that station. Yeah. If they also have a terrestrial version, which means AM, FM radio, then that'll generate a completely different royalty for the songwriter. So you can see, like, even if your song is playing, the songwriter can, or your version of the song, the songwriter can still benefit, and that's why it's very important to write your own songs. But some people are cover artists by trade. And so that's why I just wanted to make known that Sound Exchange exists, and it's a really cool way to earn some money, if you're a cover artist. So
I heard a story, I think it was on the CD Baby DIY Musician podcast, where
great podcast. Yeah,
it's great if you're an independent artist. It gives you a lot of information. But they had a story of a solo pianist that he had tons and tons of streams. So this won't be the same story. If you go register with Sound Exchange right now, you may not have this same result. But he had lots and lots of streams because people will play solo piano in restaurants and businesses all day. But he signed up for Sound Exchange, and there was $10,000 waiting for him. And so, because Sound Exchange is, I believe, I don't know what it is now, but retroactive to a certain extent. So I don't know how that works with other, maybe you can speak to that, Ryan, if there's other, if people go sign up now with a PRO, is the past streams and stuff retroactive? Will they collect, is that waiting for them, or is that kind of like only moving forward?
No, so it's not waiting for you, on BMI, ASCAP, or CSAC. It's if you miss it, you miss it. I did go to the Sound Exchange panel at NAMM, and if I remember correctly, I think it's like 2 or 3 years retroactive. That might change, though, because I think it's total extra work on their end, and they're also a nonprofit, and, they'll do it as much as they can, but they're also kind of breaking into the industry, as an entity, and I don't want to speak too much for them. You can do research on, there's a lot of videos on Sound Exchange out there, from Sound Exchange. So definitely check them out. But it is retroactive for now. And so that's a really cool thing that they're doing. It's just looking at the rest of the industry, though, I don't know how long that'll last. And that might be a special thing to them that they work hard to keep, as more and more artists realize that they exist and, are going to collect. But truly, it's up to you as the musician. It's up to you as the artist, as the creative, to understand the industry that you exist in, and to make sure that you go down the proper avenues to set up your business correctly. Right. And so, even if one day Sound Exchange decides that they're going to be like everyone else and only collect on, the fiscal year, and then after that, it's over, kind of like taxes, right? Well, I guess there is the IRS, they'll come after you, but but they're not going to come after you to pay you money. That's not in their best interest. And, they have a whole year of work ahead of them that they have to take care of. And so it's really up to you to make sure that you're, responsible and learning about the industry and making sure that, you don't accidentally forget about something and then miss out on 10,000 if you're getting played all the time.
Yeah. You said something a second ago that I think a lot of artists need to realize. You said to make sure you're handling your business, the business side of what you do. And I think just understanding that as an independent artist, that you own a business, you are your own brand, and you have to understand the things that go into place to run your own. You're an entrepreneur. You have to understand these things. We can't all afford to hire staff to, take care of all this stuff for us. So we have to dive in and figure it out, or find a friend that can help you, or go to my friend Ryan here's site, and he can teach you all this stuff, everything you need to know to be an indie musician. So Ryan, I think we've covered almost everything, and we can point people to the blog where it's really laid out really nicely, where you can go back and read over it at your own time. But just anything else that you could say to encourage songwriters, because a lot of people that might be listening to Sounds to Live By and the things that I put out, they may be at the very beginning. They may not even have a song recorded yet. They may be just starting to write, and they may not view themselves even as artists. They may have let that inner critic voice tell them they're not good enough, or they, don't deserve to be in this space, and all the things that the internal struggle we can all go through of self-doubt and all that. What would your encouragement be for someone at the very beginning, maybe has never registered with any of this stuff, is just now hearing this for the first time? What's your encouragement for them as artists?
Totally, man. I think the big thing is that when it comes to royalties and it comes to streams, it's not the full picture of a successful music career. In fact, in the beginning, it's probably not going to even be in the picture at all, right? Like, BMI royalties are generated through radio play. Well, let's be real. How much radio play are we getting? I know I'm not getting any radio play. I don't think anyone in my immediate circle is getting radio play. It's there, and definitely take advantage of the systems that are in place for us artists, but it's not the full picture. And, to continue that thought, if we move on to Spotify streams, well, how much does a stream generate? It's, like 0.004 of fourth of a penny or something, something like ridiculously small. Right. And I think I did the calculation where, like, if you get 100,000 streams on Spotify, you get like $400, or maybe it was only 40. I might be missing a zero here and there, but like 100,000 streams is a lot of streams, but it doesn't even, pay for your car insurance, or, it doesn't even cover rent, for a single room in most cities, And so you can be a ridiculously popular artist, but if you don't set your career up properly, if you rely too much on streams, if you rely too much on these very, very small revenue streams, you might be struggling when you don't need to be. And so that's why at the Indie Music Academy, what I teach Yes, I do teach about where to register your songs. I do teach about all of the royalties that can be collected because it's a nice bonus. But that's kind of how I treat it. I treat it as a bonus because what I want to do is teach artists how to set up their career to actually make an income from multiple places. Streams just being one of them, right? And so, just imagine this for a second. If you're getting 100,000 streams a month, don't you think that there's some other way to monetize that type of popularity, right? Yeah. It's something that we see all the time, and maybe we take it for granted, but Instagram influencers, YouTube influencers, all of these people that we see day in and day out, they know how to monetize on a brand, and they know how to monetize on their influence. And there's nothing more impactful and more influential than music. Right. And so what I ask myself and what I ask other artists is, why are we not doing the same thing? And why are we not using our music in this incredible art form and this essential need of humanity, and creating a proper business around it, where someone on Instagram can create a proper business around makeup tutorials or something that is way less important in life, And so, and it doesn't mean that you have to be salesy. It doesn't mean that you have to, sell out or anything like that. What I believe is, if you set up your career properly and show your true artist self, then people will gravitate towards you and you'll be able to monetize just from following a few simple, smart business steps. I think that it's possible for any artist, really. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do at the Indie Music Academy. And, it's a really big passion of mine to share that, because that's what I've done. I don't have a huge fan base, and I don't have, even what I said earlier, I don't have 100,000 streams a month on Spotify either. But I'm able to make a living as a full-time musician because I invest in my own skills. I understand how a proper music business is constructed, and I'm just able to leverage that and make things work without selling out or ruining my brand. And it's just because of a few things. And so that's the encouragement that I just want to share with anyone that's listening. It's not just a numbers game, multiplied by $0.0004, Yeah. Because if that's the game that we're all playing, it's impossible. There's no way. And so what I want to do to encourage you is just maybe, just invite and challenge you to push that aside and see this as an opportunity for other ways to build your music career other than Spotify streams and music royalties and stuff like that. So I hope that was encouraging. It has been for me, because, trying to get fans and trying to grow my Spotify and doing all that stuff, it's really frustrating when you look at the return, but it's worthwhile when you have your whole ecosystem built. And I don't know how many artists realize that, and it just saddens me when, they think that DistroKid is the only way to earn money as an artist, when there's so much more. And there's so much more even beyond what we just talked about in this video, beyond ASCAP and BMI and Sound Exchange and, your distributor. So there's more to all of this.
There's so much more. And Ryan focuses on a lot of that. So where do people go? Where do they go to get tied into what you're doing? Just go to the website, or where do you want people to go?
Totally, yeah. I think the first place to go is to check out indiemusicacademy.com. And then I'm also on YouTube. So if you just want to learn more, I put out a lot of free content there about music industry tips and helping people to just realize what the music industry actually is and understanding the industry that we all exist in. And then beyond that, I also have a mailing list where I write out exclusive content weekly. So if you really want to dive in and get to know me personally, probably joining my mailing list is the best way. and you can easily do that. Oh, and I also forgot, I just put up a free workshop too on the website, and it's over an hour long of absolutely essential music business training. So if that's something that you're interested in, as a listener of Kevin and someone who wants to just learn more about the music industry and learn how to construct a proper career that doesn't rely on DistroKid, I really encourage you to check out that free workshop, and that's also at indiemusicacademy.com.
Awesome. We'll put all those links in the show notes and in the description below, and you can definitely check all of that out. I just got to know Ryan recently, but I'm really excited to continue to watch what you do, man, and I think what you're doing to empower artists is amazing, and thank you so much for talking with us today and helping us understand these things, and I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, man, I super appreciate you having me on, man. It's an honor, so it's super good to meet you, and thank you for sharing me with your audience, and yeah, I just really hope that this video was helpful. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time. Have a great day. Well, there you have it. I told you it was good. Ryan has so many awesome things to share and to teach. Go to the Indie Music Academy. Check out all that he has to offer. He has courses. He has some free content, some free workshops. He mentioned that. He just had a free workshop come out. So go grab that. All available at indiemusicacademy.com. Thanks again, Ryan, for coming on the show. Again, if you haven't downloaded the Killer Melody Checklist, soundstoliveby.com/checklist. My gift to you. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It helps me know that people are watching this. Comment below with any questions you have on PROs, distribution, copyright, any of those things that we talked about today. Just comment. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please go give me a review, 5 stars, if you think that's fair and justified. That helps this show be found, and I can reach more songwriters like you to help really push this show where it needs to go. I really have a vision of helping songwriters all over the place. If you have a friend that's a songwriter, send this show to them. Let them know that we're out here. We just want to see this community grow. Thank you very much for being a part. We'll catch you next time.